So now you've entered all your center's data, you've taken a look at the reports. How can you use this data? First is, if you look at the reports, it might help you identify areas where you could do a quality improvement project. So for example, you may have found that there were very low breastfeeding rates in your NAS infants, lower than would be expected despite illicit drugs. So the other is, if your center already started or perhaps completed a quality improvement project, you might use the data to analyze your outcomes, both pre and post implementation. So we did want to give an example today of a hospital, and this is pretty common now, that has changed from using Finnegan's to using an Eat, Sleep, Console assessment, and how you might use the data to look at that. Next slide. We are hoping to add some features to the report site, the site that we just showed with all the visual graphs and tables, so that there will be better usability and analysis functions. However, in the meantime, if you do want to analyze your data, for now you will need to go back to the data site, which is what we are showing on this screen. You will click the CSV button on the top there, and that will allow you to download all of your center's data records. And you will see that once you download it, the column titles do correspond to the labels in our database. So if you are having trouble understanding what it refers to, you can go to the manual of definitions, which you can access by downloading on the top right where we have circled. So as I mentioned before, for our example today, we're going to look at a demo center where in 2019, the Finnegan score was used, and then they switched in 2020 to an Eat, Sleep, Console assessment to guide NAS management. So on the left, you'll see there's another black circle. We will choose to download all of our data records from 2019 and 2020, and you can pick the years on that drop-down menu. Next slide, please. So once you have your CSV file, you can open it in Excel, and you see that I've collated the 2019 and the 2020 records according to birth date, here written as B date, and then left a couple rows in between to help in comparison. As I mentioned before, the titles for the columns are from the database, so if you need help in interpreting those titles, again, you can open the manual of definitions as I showed you in the previous slide. Next page. So at the center, the management was changed from using Finnegan to Eat, Sleep, Console. And so we want to know, did that change affect any outcomes? And in particular, we want to look at length of stay. So here I've deleted most of the other columns, but I have kept A date, which is the admission date, and dis date, which is the discharge date, in order to help calculate our length of stay. And we can calculate that by subtracting the admission date from the discharge date. Next slide. So on this page, you can see that I've calculated the average length of stay for both those years. So for example, in 2019, when we were using Finnegan, the average length of stay at the hospital was 17.4 days. And then in 2020, after there was a rollout of the Eat, Sleep, Console assessment, the average length of stay dropped to 6.8 days. Now, obviously, in real life at your center, the data won't be as clear-cut, and you will also want to consider whether there's other covariables or confounders. We did just want to provide this example to show you how you might begin to analyze your data today and also look for trends that could inform the care practices at your center.